It's June 1st, and the Dallas Cowboys are 11 weeks away from starting the preseason. OTAs are in full swing, and Mike McCarthy's taking shots at Micah Parsons. What's our running back room going to look like? And what's the deal with Trey Lance? Is he really pressing Dak for the starting role? All that and more. You are listening to Sons of the Star.
Here we go! Yeah, here we go! Wait, take!
Throw, end zone, caught! Terrence Williams, touchdown Cowboys! Tony Romo!
They go for the shotgun. Roger looks left, fires it out there, caught by Tony Hill. Touchdown Cowboys!
15 to the 10, he'll score! Emmitt Smith dances to the end zone. The Cowboys have taken a 2-score lead.
Play fake to throw it out of the end zone.
Going way down the field for Michael Irvin, bumping and grinding at the 5. Oh, he's got it! Touchdown Cowboys!
Over the middle, caught by Witten, who loses his helmet but still keeps going. A penalty.
All the pressure on the left side. He drops the ball, throws, caught, Witten! Touchdown!
Big opening for Tony Dorsett. Look out, he's got great speed. 99 yards and a half. Dorsett down the sideline. Stays in bounds. Can you believe that? Short because they're 99 yards.
Prescott able to get out of the end zone and now airs it out for Lamb. He's got it. He's gone. When he gets there, it's a touchdown Cowboys. On top.
You want to know what an all-pro looks like? Watch Michael Irvin here. He'll battle you all the way down the field.
Motion on first down, Aikman. Harper. Was that beautiful? Touchdown, Dallas. Men on the rush. Pass is caught. Deflection. Touchdown. Cowboys win. Amari Cooper.
Throws it down the field. It's caught at the 10. And this game is over. The Cowboys win it. C.D. Lamb.
But no. But you understand. We do have one game left to play. Hey, fantastic. Every single one of you. I mean, I'm not just talking about these last 60 minutes. I'm talking about the quarterback schools, the mini camp, the off-season, the training camp, down in Austin when it was hot and you were tired, the whole bit. Everybody, you did one hell of a job. And the only thing else I got to say is, how about them Cowboys?
Cowboys Nation, what is up? We are live on X. Happy Saturday, everybody. Happy June 1st. We are back with another live episode of Sons of the Star. I'm joined again by my host, my co-host. I'm the host. This is my co-host, Cowboy Reg, my father, the greatest Dallas Cowboys fan in the history of all Cowboys fans. Cowboy Reg, what's going on? Happy June. We are 11 weeks away from Dallas Cowboys football. I checked today. How are we feeling?
Well, that's amazing. 11 weeks. It seems like summer summer's just getting started, so the fall's quite a ways away. But no, 11 weeks. That's awesome. That's exciting news there, Dallas. I appreciate you sharing that timetable with us. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, we got August 11th, August 11th is the first preseason game in Los Angeles. So I did the math today. Well, technically it's 11 weeks tomorrow, but yeah,
that's
we
a
are
good
11
day.
weeks away from
August
Dallas
11th August 11th is a great day.
Why is that?
That's my birthday.
Hey, happy birthday. So we're going to fly Cowboy Reg out to LA for the preseason game.
Hey.
No, we're not. We got to go to a real game. We don't want to go to a preseason game, but he might because he wants to watch Trey Lance throw the.
I want to see Trey Lance. Give me that birthday present, Trey Lance. Let's do something. But yeah, just don't get crazy out there, Cowboys Nation. I'm not advocating for Trey Lance, but I do like celebrating my birthday. Yeah, right. Don't take that out of context.
Hey, so we are live today. So if you have questions, comments throughout the show, please throw them in there. Again, we are in our off-season mode, so we have a script, we have notes, we prepare for the show. It's not all off the hip, but we want to create a conversation here, whether it's the Dallas Cowboys or NFL or anything under the sun, man, throw it in there and we'll bring it up. So like I said, keep those comments, keep those questions coming. We had a ton last week. This is why we do the live shows. So we appreciate all y'all out there. But yeah, we're still in the middle of OTAs, Cowboy Reg, what does OTA stand for again for the folks at home?
Organized team activities. Boy, you put me on the
Organized.
spot there.
We
I
talked
got
about it
it
last
though.
week.
Yeah, I got it.
Organized team activities are still going on. And I think the biggest news coming out of Cowboy Nation right now is the Micah Parsons situation. Micah Parsons is not participating in the Cowboys OTAs as of now. Again, we'll preface this conversation with OTAs are not mandatory for the players. So he has every right to sit these out. But, this is becoming more of a story because in the news, Mike McCarthy was asked about it in an interview. And he got a little sassy with it, Mike McCarthy. I don't know if he didn't have his lunch break yet or what happened, but he wasn't. Early news was that Parsons and his team let the Cowboys coaching staff know that he wasn't going to participate, and it was no big deal. But now all of a sudden, it's becoming a big deal in the media because Micah Parsons is supposed to be a leader in the locker room and a leader on the defense. And I'm going to quote what Mike McCarthy said in his press conference. And McCarthy was quoted saying, "I'm not doing attendance. I'm not going to come up here and talk about one player when 98% of them are here." So maybe taking a little shot at Micah for not being at OTAs. What's going on here, Cowboy Reg? Is this all smoke? Is this off season just nonsense, or should Micah be there? And what does the leadership role of Micah Parsons look like moving forward?
Well, first of all, what's up there, Parlay Ninja 213? Little shout out for the Parlay Ninja. He just stopped in to say hi. What's up, my man, Parlay Ninja 123? Check him
What's
out
up?
on X. Hey, yeah, I mean, Mike McCarthy didn't do himself any favors because, what he did there was create a story. And then we saw the
Yeah.
story circulate throughout social media and, some sports writers and whatnot catch on to that. So he didn't do himself any favors, but he's 100% right. I mean, let's talk about the 98% of the guys that are there working their butts off in a voluntary activity. But I'm going to tell you right now, Micah Parsons is working his butt off on his own. Like we talked about last week, he's sumo wrestling, he's MMA, he's doing all kinds of cross training and working out. He's going to be just fine. However, as Mike pointed out, and he's right, we got a new sheriff in town. We got Zimmer in town running a new defense. We need our defensive team leader there, Micah Parsons. Maybe he's not our defensive team leader. Maybe it's going to be Kendricks, who knows the system and he's worked with Zimmer before. So, Micah will be fine. I don't think Micah's on the path to hold out. I think he understands that, Dak and CD might come first, and then he might be next year. He's getting paid pretty well this year. He'll be fine. We'll see what happens. I think that if they can get all three signed, they will. But I think the budget is, once they get two signed, I don't know if there's going to be enough left to get that third one signed till next season. So we'll see what happens. I wish Micah Parsons was there. I understand what he's doing. I know he did the same thing last year. It really shouldn't be a story, but it is. The Cowboys offseason has been, full of drama and full of stories. Unfortunately, they're all negative, and this is just another one. So obviously we wish they were all at camp and we didn't have to put up with this crap, but it is what it is. Once those mandatory team activities start and preseason training starts and he's not there, then I'll make a story out of it. Right now, I'm not too worried about it. Let those guys work it out.
Yeah, I mean and at the end of the day, it's still OTAs. I know the NFL has recently talked about potentially getting rid of OTAs and just, kind of having some type of rookie camp.
Yeah.
And then moving straight into training camp, which I think makes sense. I mean, what's the point of having these things be voluntary, but then every time someone doesn't show up for them, everyone freaks out, So it's not voluntary, but it basically is mandatory as far as the media is concerned, because if you don't show up, everyone's losing their mind. But I think Micah playing wise, he is a leader on this football team. He's a leader on the defense. You count on Micah to show up and do his thing week to week. Otherwise, your team doesn't win. It's as simple as that. And he is the key. Really, he's the biggest playmaker on this defensive squad. But I think he's got a long way to go when it comes to the leadership role. And being there at OTAs, every day would have, I think, helped him be a leader on that defense. But he's doing his own thing and he's trying to better himself as a player so he can then be a leader on the field. But there's a lot more to it than not showing up to OTAs. I think the attitude, the body language, that we see on Sundays from Micah Parsons needs to improve to be a leader on the defense. And I think his role on the defense has to change. We talked about it last episode, and I'm glad you touched on this, Cowboy Reg. To me, going into this year, if you identify a leader or a captain on this defense, it's got to be Eric Kendricks, right? This is a guy that's installed in the Mike. He knows the Mike Zimmer defense. He's going to be teaching guys the Mike Zimmer defense. He is that middle linebacker position. They are basically the quarterback of the defensive side of the ball. So, he's going to be the guy telling the other defensive guys what play they're going to run, making any pre-snap adjustments. That's going to come from Kendrick. So he seems like, as of right now, the leader on this defense. Can Micah Parsons be the number one leader on this defense? I think he could if he changes some things. But I think he's going to have to play some linebacker for him to be a leader. I'm just kind of throwing this out there, but I don't know if there's a defensive end in the NFL that's really the number one leader on a defense. That's not really a positional. That's like saying you have a wide receiver or something as the leader on your offense. That doesn't really make sense. The position doesn't match up with the title. So I don't know if in his current role right now, I don't think he could be the number one leader on the defense. That normally comes from the linebacker position.
Yeah, 100% agree. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, so Mafia Members Pod popped in here and said this is the same thing that happened with Diggs. It's not a story. It's all everyone talks about and becomes a story. And Ghost Warrior, our boy Ghost Warrior, is hopping here too, saying creating a story. And I agree. It's the offseason in the NFL. Mafia Members Pod, they're Bills fans, correct?
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Yeah, so just like the Bills creating a big story by signing a Olympic wrestler for their defensive line, which I wanted to talk about today as some interesting NFL news. There's all kinds of stories being created in the offseason because it's the offseason. I mean, if you tune into ESPN, it's literally like a live stream of the New York Jets training camp because Aaron Rodgers is one of these big stories. He took his sock off during practice and all of a sudden, he's not going to be able to play this year. It's just we are just craving content right now.
That might be true. That might be true at his age. You take your sock off the wrong way, and then boom, you got a hangnail, and you're out 6 weeks. So who knows with Rodgers? But
he needs another trip down to South America for some ayahuasca.
Yeah, that'll straighten him out. But yeah, I mean, Ghost Warrior, you're 100% correct, and Mafia Members Pod, you're right on target as well. Diggs has done it, and other players have done it, and other players aren't OTAs, and the media is just creating stories because it's a downtime in the NFL right now. There's not a lot of free agent signings happening right now. The draft is over, and we're just waiting for preseason games. So, we got to talk about something. So, again, I said it last week. I'll say it this week. When the mandatory stuff starts, then I'm taking, like Mike McCarthy said, we're taking attendance. We're going to find out who's there and who's not there. I mentioned it last week. It's probably not 100% accurate as a comparison, but when your boss texts you to come to work on your day off with no pay, you're probably not going to be there. So, it's a little bit different if you're the leader and you're expected and you're on salary or something like that. But, it's not mandatory. So why are we freaking out because Mike is not there? He's even in the building. I actually think that's very, very strange to me. If he was in another country or another state doing some stuff, that makes sense. But, he's showing up and he's in the building and he's working out separately. That's just kind of weird. It's almost like maybe he likes a little drama. He's got his own podcast and
Oh
stuff
yeah,
going on.
100%.
Maybe Micah likes a little drama. So maybe Micah's all playing us and he's sitting back there. Maybe got a little Jerry Jones in him, like to stay in the spotlight,
Oh, he
little
does. Yeah.
Jerry. Yeah. So, one good thing about that, if he likes to be like Jerry, then he might be around for his whole career or as long as Jerry's running the team. So, yeah, I'm not going to read too much into it, though. It's fun to talk about and speculate, but it's kind of a wait and see for me.
Yeah, and just trying to close this out on the Micah Parsons talk. Those are just kind of some of the things that you're mentioning, Cowboy Reggie. I think he has to clean up before he can truly be a leader. He talks about wanting to be a leader. He wants to be in a more leadership role. It's your 4th year, coming in, and yeah, I mean, I think participating in some of the OTAs definitely would have helped because they're learning a new defense. They have a new defensive coordinator. Those are all things. But again, because his role is at that edge rusher role, defensive end, he doesn't necessarily need to be involved in the day to day. He needs to. It's such a specialized skill. This is a lot of personal work goes a really long way when it comes to edge rushing. So I think it's the same. I equate it a lot to wide receiver work too. It's a very specialized skill regardless of your defensive scheme. Yeah, if you're going to focus on stopping the run more, maybe he's, coming off the edge and waiting a little bit before he rushes the passer. But that's a very specialized role as an edge rusher, and you need to work on that individual skill to get sacks. That's your impact on the team. Now, if he's coming in to be a linebacker next year, then he should probably be in OTAs learning the new defense. But, maybe that's not the plan. I don't know. But I don't focus when it comes to Micah Parsons. If he's going to be the sole leader on this Dallas Cowboys defense, I don't really care about OTAs. I care about what he brings to the table on Sundays and some of his body language and some of the complaining that he does. Those are some of the things I look at that say, yeah, I don't know if you're going to be the number one leader. But we'll see. Time will tell. I think Micah Parsons is working on his personalized skills to be a better football player. And when training camp starts, all this talk's going to go away because he's going to be a dog out there and he's going to show that he's, again, the number one playmaker on this defense. We got another question or comment here about Ed in Columbus. What's up, Ed? Looking at the Cowboys schedule, they could possibly start out 2-5. How does that play in? Big D losing to Cleveland in week 1 for sure. Go Browns.
Well, I mean, Ed,
okay.
you got a crystal ball or something? I mean, you got the record going in. I'll tell you what, Ed, I'm headed to Vegas here in a couple weeks. You can Venmo me, maybe $1,000 or $2, and I'll put that money down for you on that 2-5 record. Okay, so you know where my DMs are. Go ahead and hit me up. I'll get you my Venmo. We'll put some money down for you. I bet you I won't hear from Ed in Columbus. But yeah, Ed's awesome. He's got a podcast on We Like Sports, I believe. Ed is he's jabbing us right there. That's going to be a hell of a game. Ed knows it. Week 1 in Cleveland. Apparently we'll be 3-4 if we pull that one out. So that's pretty good, first 7 games.
Yeah.
What?
And Ghost Warrior is saying Cleveland is too unpredictable. Like I said, when we did our schedule release podcast, this is going to be actually a fun game because so many times, we would have hopped on here and said Cleveland in week 1. Oh, yeah, starting off a bye week, or how the NCAA team schedule a FCS school or something. They play Appalachian State in week 1 and beat the living shit out of them. That's a quote from Longest Yard. But now Cleveland's a great football team, and going into Cleveland week 1. I mean, Ed is right. It's going to be a big test for the Dallas Cowboys.
A great game.
It's going to be a big test for the Cleveland Browns, and a lot of stories will be written after that week 1 matchup. So that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, and I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week. The Browns got blown out worse than the Cowboys did in the playoffs. The Eagles got blown out worse than the Cowboys did in the playoffs. But all everybody wants to talk about is the Cowboys blew it in the playoffs, and they're going to be horrible this year. So, Ed, we're going to look at your last game there with the Browns to see what happened there, and then maybe we'll change your mind on your prediction. But no, it's all good, Ed. I know Ed's awesome, man. He's just jabbing us. It's going to be a great game, and we'll probably have some crossover episodes
Yeah,
coming
for
up
sure. Let's do a little
each week, and
crossover,
yeah,
preview to
if
week 1, and I'm
yeah,
looking forward to it, man.
yeah,
There's
we can
some
get Ed on, or we can go on Ed's We Like Sports Pod, and we can let him know that week 1 our predictions. But yeah, I can't
he
wait, man.
said
It's going to be awesome.
Cowboys versus America's team in week 1. I like what you did there. But yeah, I mean, honestly,
We're playing the
look,
Mavericks. The Cowboys are playing the Mavericks in week 1. That's America's team. What are you talking about? Dallas Mavericks.
oh man, 2-5 is
That's
two and
bold.
five is tough, man. I guess what he's not, 2-5 would be scary, but that's basically saying you lose to Cleveland, beat New Orleans, lose to Baltimore, beat the Giants, lose to Pittsburgh, lose to Detroit, lose to San Francisco. I mean, technically, yeah, if the Cowboys come out and they're just a completely different football team next year because all they did was lose a couple guys and they didn't pick anyone up and any noteworthy player in free agency. So there's probably plenty of ESPN pundits out there that will predict the Cowboys start the season 2-5. And I can see, yeah, I mean, I can see where you're coming from if the Cowboys come out and play very, very bad football, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think to say that the Cowboys are going to lose to Pittsburgh, Detroit, San Francisco, Baltimore, and Cleveland, that's a bit of a stretch. I see them picking up that Pittsburgh game doesn't scare me. I don't know why that's everyone's. I guess Pittsburgh, the Cleveland game is going to be tough. It's week 1, but I don't see us losing to Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Detroit, and San Francisco. That no matter what, I think they pick up a couple of those games, but we'll see. But hey, I appreciate it. Ed in Columbus, we appreciate you joining the podcast, and we will see you week 1. Let's keep up the trash talk because we will keep receipts on this podcast, and you're the one shooting at us. So if you guys do a live stream for your Browns podcast, let me know. I'd love to hop in there and talk some stuff. But we got some other chats in here from the Swoop Boys. What's up, boys? How y'all doing? They also said go
That's my
Birds.
guys, man.
I don't know what Go Birds is.
That's the best Eagles podcast in the game right there. The Swoop Boys, top notch. And these are some great Philadelphia Eagles fans because he really breaks it down. He's real. He put out a chart on the quarterback tier the other day. Dak Prescott was not ranked 32nd by the Swoop Boys. They had him in the top 4. He had him in the top 4, right in the same tier with Jalen Hurts. And I had to give him a little shout out there and said, yeah, man, you know your football. You're not just talking, with hate and emotion. They really break the game down. So another good podcast to check out is the Swoop Boys. Good guys over there, and they know their football. I mean, I don't care what team you're from. If you know your football, you're a friend of mine. If you just want to get on here and call us cowgirls and say we suck and Dak sucks, you're an idiot. You don't know football. Take that shit over to X and post it all you want. But if you want to really break down the X's and O's, you got guys like Swoop over there. Ed in Columbus is another one. They got great pods and they break the game down, and we respect that. Obviously, when we play Philly, we're going to be talking trash, and they're going to be talking trash. Yeah. But at the end of the day, we know the Eagles and the Cowboys, or the Cowboys and the Eagles, are the ones battling it out for the NFC East. They know that. We know that. Anybody with half a brain knows that. Washington's got a ways to go. The Giants, I mean, it's just been an automatic dub for the since Eli left, and until they change that, turn that around, we have to look at that as a dub, and I'm sure the Swoop Boys do the same. So, yeah, man, we're looking forward to talking to them when we play the Eagles, and I believe that is, correct me if I'm wrong, I want to say week 7 or 8, something like that. Yeah, Swoop Boy knows his football. Look at that. The Giants are damn garbage, okay? So you're right there. That's X's and O's, baby. He knows.
Yeah, no, the Cowboys will not play the Eagles till November. So
all right,
one of the later start, that's going to make the rivalry even better. And I think Dallas and Philadelphia are in such similar places right now that it's really going to make that
and aren't they always? Aren't they always?
Yeah, no, they do.
They're always right there, man.
They're right there, man.
Always.
Because they're trying to be better than each other. Oh, there's a lot of similarities there. These past 30 or so years. I mean, except for the 5 Super Bowls, I mean, there's a lot of similarities there with the franchise as of recent. I didn't mean to take a shot at you. I'm just saying. But for my lifetime, I'm talking about my lifetime at least, never seeing a Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl. I've just noticed. I think there's a lot of similarities there, and especially these last like 10 years. So very interesting times for the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles. We're going to move on here to talk more about OTAs, Dallas Cowboys wise. So, we got some people in the chat talking about now the Browns and Eagles fans are going after each other. So y'all fight it out. We're going to keep
Yeah,
talking
y'all
about
go ahead and
the Dallas Cow. Yeah,
yeah, we like that. We like that.
we love it.
We like to stand in the corner and put some money down on as you guys fight it out. I love that.
It'll be fun. That'll be fun. So I wanted to talk about the offensive line for the Dallas Cowboys real quick. You know, there's a lot of hype around the offensive line because the Cowboys selected used 3 of their draft picks to draft offensive linemen. So, you know, coming out of OTAs, we have, you know, who's playing first team, who's playing second team. So as of right now, the second team offensive line has been from left to right. Tyler Guyton, Nathan Thomas, Cooper Beebe taking snaps at center, Asim Richards, and Matt Waletzko has been the second team for the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to offensive line. So none of those rookies are seeing first team snaps yet. The first team right now is from left to right: Chuma Aduga, Tyler Smith, Brock Hoffman, TJ Bass, Terrence Steele, and then Zach Martin's kind of doing his own individual thing like he did last year.
So who's
So
snapping the ball there? Hoffman? Who's snapping the ball in there?
yeah, Brock Hoffman has been center number 1 with TJ Bass kind of floating in there as our number 2, and then obviously Cooper Beebe is at center for the second team. So uh, anything to read into there, Cowboy Reg, or is it just typical early on in training camp? You know, rookies aren't going to be able to jump up above certain players. Do you see some of these rookies, you know, when it comes to opening kickoff against Cleveland? Do you see any of these rookies being on the field?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that Beebe's going to be he's going to be our center, and it would make sense that he's not with the first team because he's got to learn the position. So at this point, I'm not going to read too much into it because it is OTAs, but it is very interesting that that's kind of where they see those guys as of right now. And then as the rookies develop, I mean, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, unless they've changed, they don't even let you put the star on your helmet if you're a rookie during the camps, and they give them their star as a reward if they don't get cut when we go into the preseason. So unless that tradition's changed, I look at it that way. It's like, look, you might be the number 1 pick in the draft, but you're still a rookie, and these are our veterans, and you're going to have to work your way through them first. So I'm okay with that. I certainly wouldn't, you know, get my ink pen out and say, here is our starting lineup, because that's what it was in OTAs. Absolutely not. I'm not going to read that much into it, but it is interesting to hear who's snapping the ball. You know, more than anything, I'm interested who's going to be our center right now. I think the other positions are going to be flexible and got a lot of experience with people moving around the line with the veterans we have and the rookies we picked. It's going to be interesting to see who that starting center is when we roll in and play Ed and Columbus there in Cleveland.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Yeah, let's see what happens. It's interesting though.
Yeah, and I think obviously I think Tyler Smith's role as left tackle is pretty solidified. That center position is pretty open. That you know, as well as Zach Martin and Terrence Steele, probably fairly solidified. But you know, that Chuma Aduga, he's a guy you look at and say, you know, Tyler Guyton, or most likely Tyler Guyton, can take that spot from him. And then you look at that center position with Brock Hoffman. You know, he's been the guy that's taken the most snaps. Obviously, that's a big deal because he's working with Dak a lot. But you know, Cooper Beebe again is a lot of praise coming out of OTAs. You know, from about Cooper Beebe. So that's the guy that could take over that center position as well. These are more training camp battles. I don't really think they put those guys up to a strong test yet because the rookies are still learning the offense. They're learning how to go through an NFL practice. There's so much of a learning curve there that you can't really fully evaluate them against some of the veteran players. So once training camp starts, I think we're going to see some of those battles and some more news out of, who's going to start over who, and obviously when the preseason rolls around. But we'll see. Obviously, we have 11 weeks left, until preseason, and then we have 3 more weeks before we actually play a game. So, we got some time, for these things to work themselves out. But I wouldn't read too much into it other than we might have expected some of these rookies to take some first team snaps earlier, but obviously the Cowboys are doing their thing, saying, hey, we're going to give priority to some of the veteran players before we start, putting these rookies through some first team snaps. So it is what it is. But yeah, I would say that center position as of now, and maybe that left tackle, left guard can maybe change a little bit, but I think that center position is the one that's going to be the most, changing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm
that's
100%.
go ahead.
No, 100% agree.
Yeah,
That's what I'm most interested in.
Yeah. So once Cooper Beebe gets some, more time in OTAs and into training camp, I think he's gonna rotate in with Brock Hoffman and TJ Bass, and that'll be a battle to see who's gonna take that center position. So other news from OTAs, Zeke is back. And, Mike McCarthy said it's like he never left. Everything's back to normal. Zeke's, you see him in some of the videos. If you watch some of the OTA videos, he's kind of messing around. He seems very comfortable. Is he the same running back as he was when he left? I mean, I guess when he left, yeah, but is he the same Zeke that we were accustomed to? Probably not. But the good news is that he's comfortable around the team, and this is a guy that's he's a morale guy. He's comfortable in Dallas, which makes you think that, whatever he's at in his career is going to be maxed out, at the Dallas Cowboys, because that's where he seems comfortable.
And that's where he wants to be. I mean, if you're playing where you want to be, that makes a big difference in your attitude. So, and I've said it before that, people want to make fun of the Cowboys for bringing back Zeke because they think that we're going to give him the ball 25 times a game, which is silly. He's there because he's a team leader. He's going to be a short yardage guy. He's a pass protector, and he's still got a little gas left in the tank. He runs forward. He's a downhill runner, which we needed. We needed to bring that downhill runner in, and he was the number one free agent on the board by the time the Cowboys started looking at bringing in a back. He was the guy, and I said it on the show. You posted the link. I predicted this in March. I said they're going to bring Zeke in. I said it in March. I said it makes sense, and I thought you could bring this guy for $4 or $5 million. They got him for $3 million, $2 million with $3 million in incentives. $3 million max. He got him on the cheap. We're going to go running back by committee. Zeke can be a team leader. I love it. Dak's comfortable around Zeke. Mike McCarthy, like you said, is comfortable around Zeke. So, hey, what's wrong with having a coach on the field or a morale guy on the field, being around these rookies? You know how he played his rookie season. I mean, he played like the MVP of the league. He was amazing his rookie season. So what a better guy to have around with all the rookies that are on this team this year with the draft we had. Just having Zeke out there in OTAs, I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and first team snaps when it comes to rookies has been Rico, Zeke, and actually surprisingly Hunter Luepke. So, which is a guy that surprised us all last year, and he was playing well until the fumble in Miami, right? It was in Miami.
Detroit
fumble.
In Detroit, didn't he fumble it through the end zone in Detroit or
no, it was Miami.
Was it Miami?
Lamb fumbled it in Detroit. Yeah. Hunter Luepke, they marched on the field, fumbled it in the end zone at Miami, which ended up costing us the game. But obviously, he's still doing great, and he's had a good offseason because he's taken first team snaps at halfback, even though he's more of a fullback type role. A lot of places you look, he's listed as a fullback, but that's their first team snaps when it comes to running back. And then on the second team, you have Deuce Vaughn, Malik Davis, and Royce Freeman right now are the guys taking second team snaps.
Malik Davis sighting? That guy, I thought he was MIA last year. I thought they were looking for him. I was watching one of them crime shows, and I'm pretty sure they were looking for Malik. But Hey, man, I was high on Malik Davis a couple years ago, and then I think when Rico heated up and Rico took his spot, he just went into hiding. So, hey, maybe he's back. Maybe he didn't. Maybe it was Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard left the building, and Malik is
Yeah.
back. I like it. Tell me about Deuce, because I heard yesterday I saw some discussion online that they'd line him up in the slot. They're running some
Yeah,
plays
it's
with Deuce.
actually that's in the game notes today there, Cowboy
Yeah,
Rich. Right on.
I
That was
love it.
actually my next talking
Ah,
point.
see,
So
we're
yeah,
we're on the same page.
Deuce Vaughn is getting some work out in wide receiver in the slot position, which is very interesting due to his size, I would say, coming in at 5'5". So I don't know if there is a wide receiver in the NFL. Has there ever been a guy to play wide receiver or in the slot position that short? Ever?
Probably in the early 1900s, maybe
Yeah, I mean,
1800s.
I'm
But
gonna look this up real quick. Cowboy
yeah, I
Reg, you
mean,
talk.
yeah, this is what I like. He's quick, he's shifty. If you're in the slot, you're not going to be throwing him a jump ball. The other
No.
thing that I thought about when I read this was the rate of interceptions should drop because you're throwing the ball so much lower when you got a 5'5" guy compared to a 6'4", 6'5" guy or 6'3" guy. A lot of those wide receivers, Dak can put that ball low, and probably you get a lot less balls tipped, you get a lot less balls picked off, which obviously is something that we've had trouble with before. He cleaned that up well last year. But I don't know. I don't necessarily like Deuce just getting the ball fed to him and running over guard to tackle, because, I saw it last year at 5'5". He goes down too easy. These
Yeah.
300-pound linemen get one arm on him and he's on the ground. So you got to get him in open space. I feel the same way about Kevontae Turpin, by the way. You got to get them in open space. So a slot would allow him to get into open space and create something in the open field. So, maybe we're looking at it, and what they're saying is, look, it didn't work out last year as a running back. So we're going to try this with you, throw you in the slot, throw you some different positions, get the ball to you and open the field and see what you got. And
Yeah.
maybe if this doesn't work out, maybe we're not going to see Deuce again. I hate to say it, but he was a zero contributor last year. So maybe they're trying to come up with a reason to keep him on the roster and see what he can do. We'll probably see him running out of the slot in the preseason, and Trey Lance, getting the ball to him, and we'll see what happens. But I'm definitely not looking at Deuce right now and saying, okay, there's a guy who's going to be a major contributor on this team next year. At this point, I don't think that's the case, and they're just trying to find a home for him, and maybe that's a slot. I like the idea.
Yeah, so quick research right here. I don't know. There might be other guys out. There's been some running backs that are very short, like Deuce Vaughn. I mean, Darren Sproles was only 5'6". Obviously, he was an outstanding running back. Maurice
There it is.
Jones-Drew was only 5'7". That's another one. Barry Sanders is only 5'8". So, I mean,
Deuce is smaller than all those guys, though. I mean,
smaller dollars. When it comes to wide receiver, Steve Smith was only 5'9", which is kind of surprising. I don't remember that. And then, Wes Welker, who's a famous slot guy, was 5'9" as well. But you're talking about Deuce being 4 inches shorter than those guys, who are two of the shortest wide receivers to ever play the game. It's interesting. I don't know. I guess at the wide receiver position, you could lose him because of how small he is during a play.
I mean, it's a
in the
slot. I don't consider a
I mean,
slot a wide receiver necessarily. So
that's true. Yeah. I mean,
you're not.
they're
I
just
don't
I
see.
think you're right.
Yeah,
They're
I
just
think
trying to find
it's.
something for him to do.
I mean, I think they're trying to find a way. You remember the preseason last year? Whenever he was in the open field, he was gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't
Right.
like, oh, he got in the open field and got us a first down of 4 or 5 yards. Like, it seemed like every time Deuce got the ball in the open field or he broke through the line, he would make a couple more moves, and it was 6. And then in the regular season, it was like he's on the ground as soon as he passed the line of scrimmage. I think his rushing average last year might have been 2 or 3 yards or something. It wasn't good. but they're probably looking for a way to create some magic with him because he had a magical preseason last year. We were all hyped about Deuce, right?
Yeah.
And then a couple times he came in early in the season and it was just a disaster. Even in garbage time, you get those.
Right.
We had some games last year where we're up 3 scores, and late in the fourth quarter they put the second team in, and there's Deuce, and I get all excited, but Deuce is on the ground, Deuce is on the ground, Deuce is on the ground. There's just something that wasn't there that was in the preseason. So I think they're trying to create some magic with Deuce and get him in the open field and see if this is the position for him. Otherwise, he might not have a position in Dallas. Honestly, what they did last year did not work out for him.
Yeah, there's something there with Deuce that they like, and I think you're right, Cowboy Reg. It's looking back to last year's preseason and how do you get him in the open field where they weren't able to do that last year when he was taking snaps to running back. So maybe in the slot he could work some magic. I don't know. I mean, why not? I could see it. I could
Yeah.
potentially see it. But yeah, time will tell. And I think in the preseason again, we will see if he actually takes some snaps at in the slot position or if this is just a OTA kind of trying things out. But you're right. I mean, if he can't show us anything this year, I mean, his NFL career is going to be short. No pun intended there. But we were big. I mean, I don't know who doesn't like Deuce Vaughn. I think all Cowboys fans would like to see Deuce Vaughn do something. I watched him a lot when he was in college because, like I said in many podcasts before, my wife's a TCU grad. So that year where TCU went to national championship game, they had to play Kansas State twice, and in that Big 12 championship game, they got lit up by Deuce Vaughn. So when the Cowboys drafted him, I was like, damn. Obviously I was rooting against him before, but I've seen this guy do some magical things. This is a great pick by the Cowboys. So but much like every other draft pick back in 2023, they just haven't panned out. So hopefully this year someone does. Maybe that guy is Deuce Vaughn. Not sure, but I'd love to see him be used in different ways. But at the same time, when it comes down to making selections for your roster, are you going to select Kevontae Turpin or Deuce Vaughn as a guy that can come in and play some slot wide receiver, right? And then if you look at what is you brought in this guy Royce Freeman, is he really not going to even make the team? You would assume that it's going to be Rico Dowell, Zeke, and Royce Freeman, right?
Yeah, that's what you would assume.
But I guess you never know. Sometimes you do sign these guys in the offseason that end up don't even making the team, but you would think Royce would be the guy that at least at number 3. But are you
Yeah, I
gonna
mean
are you gonna
that's an interesting case because when we picked up Royce Freeman, what I kept hearing from the so-called experts was he's a Zeke Elliott style runner. So, you picked up Freeman, but then they picked up Zeke. So does that squeeze Freeman out of the mix? We've seen this before where they get a free agent and then the free agent doesn't even make the team. So because they got another free agent after that, it's all about the market and the timing and all that. So you would assume that Freeman is RB3, but hey, I saw potential in Malik Davis a couple years ago. Maybe he pops back up into the position, into the picture. Deuce, it makes sense to use him at slot if it works out, and then it's not really another back that you're activating. He can play back, but he might be special teams returner along with Turpin. He did a little bit of that last year. He can return kicks and punts. He did it mostly in garbage time when they didn't want Kevontae out there. So it's going to be interesting what they do with the running back room. I think the only thing we can say right now is it's Rico and Zeke. And after that, it's competition. Yeah. And I love competition. I love watching those players fight it out. And whoever fights the hardest and gets it done in the preseason, you get the job. I love it. Let's do that.
Yeah, and on that same note, we're not talking about Hunter Luepke, and he's the guy that's been the number 3 when taking first team snaps. And whether he's going to play the fullback position or not, it's a roster spot. So, I mean, can you have a fullback on the roster and 3 other running backs and then maintain your depth at offensive line? And then what's going on wide receiver? What about tight end? I mean, they get numbered very quickly. Like
Yeah,
that 53-man roster really slims down quick. So
53 is
it's going to
tough,
be an
man.
interesting offseason, man. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, you need guys that
So,
can play multiple positions, and Turpin gets a
yeah,
nod because of his special team skills. So you got to believe that a guy like Turpin is on the active roster every week because he's your punt returner, kick returner. We talked about last week. We're not sure what's going to happen with a kick returner because of the change in the rule with the new NFL kickoff. We might see teams going a different direction. We'll see, but Turpin is he's punt returner, kick returner, receiver, slot guy, can run you talked about it last week. He had over a 10-yard average on rushing. So if it comes down to who's on the active roster and you mentioned his name, he's probably on the active roster. Hunter
yeah,
Litkey and Deuce and those guys and Malik Davis, man, there's probably only room for one of you each week. So it's tough.
yeah, man. And like maybe they'll try a Deuce Vaughn in some return roles too. I mean, why if you talk about a guy because the
Yeah.
changes to the kickoff is going to be there's going to be more time in open space.
Yeah,
So
that might be the guy right there. Yeah.
maybe
Good
maybe
call,
Deuce
Dowd.
and
Good call. Good call. That might be
maybe
the guy.
Deuce and Turpin, man. Put Deuce and
Yeah.
Turpin back there.
Why not?
But who knows? We'll see. Time will tell. So last
Now,
note here on
here one quick
Go
question
ahead.
for you.
Go ahead.
Let's see if you
Okay.
know the answer because I don't. This kickoff return rule is being adopted from the XFL, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was Cavante Turpin, was he in the USFL or the XFL? Has he experienced this kickoff before?
No, he was in
Has
the
he
X. Yeah.
So he was under the rules of this kickoff that we're running this year, or was he under the rules of the former kickoff? It's interesting to note if he has
Oh,
done
that's a
this
good question.
before. Yeah, if he's had experience before with this kickoff format, he might be the guy. That's one thing I haven't heard coming out of OTAs, which I'm surprised by. Maybe I need to do more research. Is what's going on with the kickoff? Are they practicing that? Who do they got on the field for those kickoffs? Who's returning the ball? This is a major rule change, guys. If you haven't been following it, the game's going to change drastically with these kickoffs. It's a completely different game than what we're used to seeing, where they're just kicking the ball through the end zone 90% of the time. Now, all of a sudden, we're not going to see that. We're not going to be seeing a lot of that. That might drop down to, 10, 15, 20% at the most, where they're going to be able to do that. So, it's going to change. Who's going to be back there? Has Turpin done it before? Maybe he's your guy. But Deuce, I love that idea. Maybe Deuce is a guy to return those and get him in the open field. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, he was in XFL. He definitely participated
Okay, there you go. So
in
he would have
those
been. Yeah, I wonder if
in
he. I
those
mean,
alt.
do you
Yeah.
have stats does he have kick return stats in the XFL? If he has kick return stats in the XFL, he's probably done it before. He's probably done this exact kickoff that we'll be adopting. And that doesn't mean he gets a starting job automatically that he's done it before, but it definitely puts him in the mix, I would think, that he's going to be the guy they're looking at first. It's probably his job to lose if he's done it before. We all know what an exciting returner he is. He was a Pro Bowler, 2 seasons ago as our returner. Last year, just too many kicks through the end zone. He just never had much of a chance.
Which is going to change. There's two
Yeah.
reasons why that changes with the new rule. Well, first of all, it's that teams will be moved back to kickoff, which isn't a big deal because they boot it through the end zone. But the other big change is that touchbacks, instead of being placed at the 25, will be placed at the 30. So
Yeah.
this year, there might be an incentive to actually kick. You have a better chance of getting a team in short field position by kicking than kicking through the end zone for a touchback.
Yep.
So, that they're expecting more kick returns, basically. So, because they're placing the touchback at the 30, you may want to actually kick to the team instead of booting it through the end zone. So, we should see more kick returns. That could potentially help the Dallas Cowboys because they have an explosive player like Cavante Turpin that has played in the XFL. Maybe that's going to be the big swing that the Cowboys need. So maybe Jerry was in the room with Goodell when they made that rule change and floated a little money around. I guess you never know there.
Never know.
Jerry. You never know.
Oh, he's crafty.
He's been around the league since the Stone era. I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, his first squad had leather helmets, so Jerry's been around a while.
That is for sure. So let's move on here. Last note for OTAs. And again, folks, if you have any comments or questions, pop them in there. I want to talk about Trey Lance real quick. So obviously that's your guy. It's not your guy saying he's going to be the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys next year, but he's getting a lot of praise. And Mike McCarthy came out and said he's, very close to being a master of the Dallas Cowboys offense. So is Trey Lance a shoe-in for that quarterback 2 role? And what are your thoughts on Trey Lance so far in this offseason?
I think he's QB2 right now. They just won't announce it. They traded a 4th-round pick for him. They kept him on the roster, this year when they could have let him go. They have plans for him. It's not been announced, but I think he is going to be your backup quarterback going into week 1. That's my prediction. Now, if we go 2-5 like Ed and Columbus predicted, after the bye week, Trey Lance will be the starting quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. I'll throw that out there. We are not going 2-5, and Dak will be the quarterback. But God forbid Ed and Columbus is right. I believe Trey Lance is going to have his shot if that something crazy like that happens. I'm not surprised by hearing that. I've talked about it before. He's 23 freaking years old, and people already call him a bust. He's 2 or 3 years younger than half the quarterbacks that just got drafted. So, right. I mean, let the guy develop. All of a sudden, he didn't even come into our team until after, preseason last year. He didn't even play in the preseason. When did he have time to really learn the offense? He didn't run it. So to hear Mike say he's just a little short of having the offense mastered is probably right on schedule. So I wouldn't read too much into that. But I will say that I believe that he's going to have his shot, whether it be coming in as a backup if Dak is injured, or, Dak is benched, or Dak is sitting out because we're up 30. You're going to see more Trey Lance this year. And every day that goes by that Dak Prescott is not extended, and if that happens in the regular season, Trey Lance is more and more important to this team, because who knows what's going to happen if they don't get an extension done with Dak. Now are you going to start over? Are you going to draft a quarterback? Or you have a 23-year-old sitting in-house right now that's been on your team. At that point, it would have been 2 seasons, and they're ready for their shot. So I don't expect him to go anywhere this year, and I only expect him to be elevated above Cooper Rush. I'm a huge Cooper Rush fan. Anytime Cooper Rush is under center, I don't stress. I feel fine. But I don't feel like he's going to do anything magical. And
no,
maybe
he can't move the needle, man.
Yeah, maybe Trey can. I mean, maybe he can.
Oh, he's
maybe
got the potential.
Yeah. And I mean, all these people saying he's a bust. I mean, how's he a bust? He's 23 years old and he's in the NFL. That alone as a quarterback is a good, it's a remarkable accomplishment. He's not a bust. He started a couple games at 20 years old, and then they run him out of town because they got Brock Purdy, and all of a sudden he's a bust. That's garbage. He's not a bust. He hasn't had an opportunity. He goes out there and plays a couple games this year, throws 4 or 5 interceptions a game. I'll be the first one on the show saying that guy's a bust. But he's not a bust yet. It's like calling Caleb Williams a bust. Is he a bust? He hasn't played a down yet. Trey Lance hasn't played a single down for the Cowboys when it counts. So I'm not ready to call him a bust. I'm not surprised by McCarthy's comments. He's right on schedule. I knew he would be.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I'm coming around on Trey Lance. I mean, I got to see it first. That the reason I don't know exactly what happened in San Francisco. The reason that I've been so skeptical about Trey Lance is, why would San Francisco give him away like that? I don't know. I mean, Purdy, because to me, Purdy's like just a guy that can really run your offense well. Maybe he's just a Shanahan guy. Like, I don't know. Maybe Shanahan saw Purdy and he took up everything he said. He just follows the script so well that Shanahan lays out for him. And maybe he was the guy and Trey Lance did different things. I don't understand why he wasn't able to succeed in San Francisco with the amount of talent he was around and how highly they drafted him. That's why I still question Trey Lance.
What did he play? 3 games? He didn't play like 3 games? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he did not play a lot of games at all. Yeah, it was like
I mean,
3 or 4 games. It was
I mean,
very small sample size, but
you got, Troy Aikman, they're 1-15 his rookie year. He's a bust. Well, now he's got 3 Super Bowls. So, patience, right? I mean, maybe
hope you're right.
some people in that San Francisco 49er organization, and they won't go public, but I'm sure there's some people behind the scenes that go, yeah, we could have won that chip if we had Trey Lance under center, because he would have probably made something happen, or at least taken some shots. And Purdy is, just like you said, he's a Shanahan guy. He's going to do what he's told, and he's going to manage, and he does a hell of a job managing, and he gets the ball to those playmakers. But sometimes you need a little magic. Sometimes you need that X factor. Sometimes you need that Patrick Mahomes. When is Patrick Mahomes off script? He's off script all the time, right? And it pays off, and they win Super Bowls. Some games he doesn't. He throws interceptions at the end of games. They lose games. Look, the Chiefs aren't going 16-1 every year. That's for sure. They fight, claw, and scratch their way into the playoffs every year, and then it's go time, right? It's like they're just waiting around when it counts, and then they turn it up a notch. But you got to go off script sometimes, and Cooper Rush is not going off script. Dak used to, and then he throws a bunch of picks, so now he won't go off script. So, maybe Trey is a guy that can create some magic. I just don't want them to throw him in there, but I want to see him get his opportunity one way or the other at some point. Starts in the preseason. If he can't succeed in the preseason, forget about it. He might, that's the thing. I'll rephrase my prediction. He'll be QB2 as long as he plays well in the preseason. If he takes a dump in the preseason, he's back to QB3. And then they're just going to let his contract expire and let him move on somewhere else. But if he succeeds in the preseason, and I'm predicting he will, I think there's enough young players on this team that they're actually going to try hard in the preseason. A lot of times your team's full of veterans, and they just kind of walk through the preseason. They already know these guys, we're cutting this guy after this game anyways. But that's not the case this year. So it's going to be an exciting preseason, and I expect Trey Lance to do well. I expect him to be our QB2 in week 1.
All right, so let's say in your hypothetical scenario that Trey Lance has a fantastic preseason and he is the solidified number 2 on this Dallas Cowboys roster when it comes to quarterback. Do you think there might be plays designed for Trey Lance where he actually comes in a regular season game in the middle of a tightly contested game and runs some plays, because he's such a threat at running the ball? Or is that kind of crazy? Because I know they're throwing this around and they won't use Dak like they used to in the running game because they're worried about him getting hurt. So they're spending money on Trey Lance. They're bringing this guy in. Let's say part of the plan, assumably would be that he might come in for some plays during the regular season while the game is on the line. Do you agree with that, or do you think that's a little too optimistic?
I mean, I like the idea. I've never, ever been a fan of any kind of 2 quarterback system. Guys need to be in rhythm, and they need to stay in rhythm. But, it's kind of like what we're seeing with running backs. Short yardage, put this guy in. We need 8 yards, put this guy in. So the NFL has changed, and that might be the next position to change. I mean, why not? We don't want our franchise quarterback running around the outside. He's already had, a couple severe injuries, and that gruesome ankle bone sticking out of his shoe injury. We don't want to see that again. So we'd rather have Trey Lance running the ball in those situations. So, I mean, I don't have a problem with it if it's just a couple plays per game that he could come in. And it also helps him with his nerves. I think getting guys out there when it counts helps them with their nerves, which means if Dak goes down, he comes in, he doesn't miss a beat. So, I'd like to see it. If he moves up to QB2 and he's active on game days, why not? Why just sit there and hold the clipboard the whole time? Let the guy, get in there in certain situations. It might be a trick play, a gadget play. It might be running the ball around the outside out of the shotgun. It might be an option. It might be he's running the ball outside on the shotgun, then he throws the ball. So those are the kind of things that we don't want Dak doing at his age and with his health history at this point. He's been very durable, don't get me wrong. But, franchise quarterback, the amount of money he's making, and runner up in league MVP, and I think the same thing is being said about Lamar right now. We brought in Derrick Henry over here so Lamar doesn't have to run anymore. We don't want this guy getting hurt. We don't want Dak getting hurt. Why not? Let's see what Trey Lance can do. I don't know that much. Maybe you know a little bit more about his legs. I know he's quick. I know he can run. But in college, I believe he was a pass first quarterback. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think that was the offense that he ran out of North Dakota State. But I mean, he didn't play. He just never has had to play a lot of football. But yeah, he's a guy that can run. He's a super athletic quarterback, dual threat. Is the guy that he should be. But I don't think he's had the chance to really show that. But like you said, you keep talking about how young he is. He only really got to start one season at North Dakota State, and then they got the COVID year. So it's just not a guy that's played a lot of football. So we really don't know what to expect out of Trey Lance. I mean, he could be, man, I don't know. You could strike gold with the guy. He's just so
Yeah,
young and he's just not played a lot of football. There's so much room there to be unknown. That
yeah,
could be great. You don't know. The guy is either a total bust or it could be the
yeah,
next thing, man. But he's a guy that you know you got to see play some football. So
yeah. There's
hopefully,
only one way to find out.
I don't see why they don't roll him out and take 80%, 90% of the snaps in preseason with him. Maybe that's a little high, but you've already seen what Cooper Rush can do, and he's a system guy, and he's just there to
Yeah, and I
if
think Mike
Dax
said
if
it there,
Dak
right?
like
Mike said he is.
last year. Yeah, like last year, like if Dak gets hurt for what was that 2 years ago? When did
Yeah,
Cooper Rush last come in?
that was 2 years ago. Yeah,
Yeah, 2 years ago, sorry. Um, so when Dak's out for 3 games, you put Cooper Rush in, you go 2-1, he can kinda steer the ship, right? And you're
yep,
okay, but if Dak's hurt for the year, do you want Cooper Rush coming in? Like you're done. You put a guy like Trey Lance out there, you kinda don't know what's gonna happen.
yeah.
So he's a
Well, you
he's
might
a
end up getting the number one draft pick, or you might end up going to the Super Bowl. So I like that
right.
idea. We got
Yeah.
to find out. But we know that Cooper Rush is, in my opinion, you're 9-8, 10-7, or 8-9 with Cooper Rush. He can, like
Mhm.
you said, he could steer the ship, but he's not going to win any races. He's just out there to maintain things while Dak's getting healthy, and that's great. We love Cooper Rush for that. He's been reliable. And like I said earlier on this show, I don't lose any sleep knowing Cooper Rush is going to start tomorrow. If there's a game tomorrow, I sleep like a baby. Cooper Rush, I know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to throw 2 touchdowns and no interceptions, or 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. It's going to be a little above average, nothing spectacular. If the other team puts up 30, we're probably going to lose with Cooper Rush. But if our defense shows up, I'm okay with him playing against anybody. But
Yeah.
boy, it'd be nice to have some magic back there. Maybe Trey Lance turns into a guy that can light up the scoreboard at times. So
Yeah.
he's got to be given a chance. So and the preseason, McCarthy said it. He's he's already said he's going to be the guy. We got to see what he can do in the preseason. He's going to get basically all the snaps except maybe one quarter or half a quarter. We'll see a little Cooper Rush just so you can kind of
You gotta put Cooper in there a little bit just so he
yeah
can run the offense a few times.
yeah
But yeah, I mean, Trey
agreed
Lance is the guy that's fighting for and Dak actually came out and said, yeah, like I've had to. He didn't say he's got to fight for his job, but he's like, yeah, I mean, Trey Lance is putting some pressure on me, which is something that's never been said about Cooper Rush. So I don't know if
no
it's smoke and mirrors, but Dak is out there saying it, man. I mean, he's like, yeah, he's keeping me on my toes. I'm coming in here fighting for the job, which isn't really. I mean, that's just like bullshit. But I mean, at least he's saying it. Something's going
yeah
on there. I don't know.
yeah
I
I
mean,
don't think Dak's gonna say it if it's not true. I mean
yeah,
he's in the middle of contract negotiations. I don't think he'd come out and say, hey, this guy right behind me he's keeping me on my toes, he's right behind me. He wouldn't say
yeah, he
that.
is. That's what he's saying, man.
Yeah, so there's truth to that. Definitely. That's good news for our future if that ends up being our future. So we'll see. I can't wait for the preseason. I want to see this guy play, see what he's got.
Yeah. Yeah, so hey, we're gonna stick around for a few more minutes and take questions. If anyone has some questions out there, we have a large audience right now on X, so we'd love to hear your questions. I got over 150 folks in here live right now, so love to hear some questions from the folks that are joining us live, and we'll talk about them for a few minutes, or this might be the end of our episode, but we'll give you a few minutes to shoot some questions our way. The only thing left I had for the show was it's June 1st, which means the Michael Gallup money has shown up in the cap space. So the Dallas Cowboys have 9.5 million left in cap space or extra cap space today because of the Michael Gallup cut. Um, so an extra 9.5 million, will they use it, or are they going to just keep that for next year? Are they going to sign Stephon Gilmore? What is going on with Stephon Gilmore? Is he any other free agents at all that the Cowboys could go shop for with that extra money, or are they? What's the deal?
I mean, Gilly, we need Gilly, man. I love Gilly. I think he's a team leader too, and he's such a veteran presence. Don't know what's going on there. The one thing, this is why I'm not screaming and yelling at Jerry for not signing Gilly. You see any other teams stepping up to sign Stephon Gilmore? I mean, he's still sitting there, right? So obviously he's asking for too much money for what they think he can produce. And I'm talking about all 32 teams. I'm not talking about just the Cowboys. If the amount of money that he wants matches what they feel he can do on the field, he'd have been signed. So something's going on there. The other rumor, and I hate to talk about rumors, the other rumor is that he's going to retire. So we'll see. I tend to think that he has another year or two left in him at an elite. I thought he was at an elite level last year, right? I mean, look what he did in the Philly game. You know, he reminds me of my boy Kyrie Irving. As soon as you count him out, he's 32 years old. He's going to drop 36. I'm 32. I'll drop 36. That's how it works. Go on home, Ant-Man. This is Kyrie's time. So, hey, we can talk a little NBA. But I think we got the money. You know, let's go get Gilmore on a 1-year deal. 1-year deal. What you don't want to leave that money on the table, Jerry. You got to spend it. They give it to you, you spend it. So get Gilmore signed now. But how much money does he want? Does that affect the Micah Parsons, the CD Lamb, and the Dak Prescott contract that we need done? So maybe Gilly's the odd man out. Gilly got to take a team-friendly deal and get back out there and help some of these rookies, and we need your veteran presence. So the other 31 teams in the league aren't breaking down, his front door to try to sign him. So maybe he needs to come back a little bit off his price. Maybe you need a new agent, and let's get the deal done. Let's get Gilly back out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because, like you said, he's been rumored to visit a few places or go to some places, and it's never really worked out. But here he sits on June 1st, still a free agent. I don't see why you don't re-sign him with that extra money. Like you said, if we find someone for a 1-year deal, that cap space can be used for next year. But it doesn't really matter with the contract extensions. You're not really using this year's cap space money to deal with any extensions when it comes to Dak Prescott or CeeDee Lamb, or Micah. So if you don't use it this year, unless you try to use it in some type of trade deal, because sometimes if you're a buyer, at the trade deadline, you might have to eat up some of your own cap space to pay a guy if you inherit his contract. So if you keep that money, maybe that's what it's used for. But other than that, I mean, I don't know. But I just feel like if they wanted to sign Stephon Gilmore, if they wanted him back, they would have done it already. I don't know what's going on with the guy. And maybe his shoulder is worse than we thought. Maybe that surgery in the off season is.
Yeah, that's another factor. Maybe, and that's why teams are shying away from him. Look, you come off that injury and there's some, question about your ability. Sign that team-friendly deal with some incentives. Get some incentives in your contract. X number of, deflections, X number of interceptions, pick sixes, whatever. Throw those incentives in there with a base contract, and there you go, Gilly. You want to get paid. Here's the incentives. Go get it done, and you're going to be the starter, so you're going to have that opportunity to get it done. Diggs and Bland. I think Diggs coming back has that negative impact on Gilly's contract, that he becomes, believe it or not, as a former defensive player of the year in the NFL, he becomes your cornerback 3 on this roster. What I saw on social media, that we have the worst roster in football, that we lost everybody. But all of a sudden, when you really look at it, you got Diggs on one side, Bland on the other.
Yeah.
The 2 best cornerbacks in the NFL the last 2 years. 2 years ago, it was Diggs. Last year, it was Bland. That's undisputable based on stats. As you always say, we don't care about your feelings. We care about stats. Gilmore, former defensive player of the year in the NFL, is a cornerback 3 on our team. That's a pretty good defensive back room right there when he's your number 3. But he probably wants cornerback 1 and at least cornerback 2 money because of his resume. But he's a cornerback 3. So I think there's your problem right there. I'm sure it's financial. And I have no insight on that, folks. I'm just putting 2 and 2 together, and I think it's a financial issue.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, but if it's taken this long, I'm not sure it's going to happen. But hey, who knows what's going on in the front office?
Who knows, man? They might bring him in week 2 or 3 if we're having issues or we lose somebody.
Yeah.
If he's still out there.
But
We've seen that.
He is, as of now, man, he hasn't been picked up. So no. I'm sure tomorrow he'll be picked up by another team, but because we're not the only ones getting some money on June 1st. So
yeah,
I don't know, man. Yeah. I would be shocked if he doesn't get picked up by someone. But if he hasn't been picked up yet, what's really going on? Yeah, I mean, other than that, there's really not, when it comes to June 1st, there's not a lot of hot ticket free agents left. There's some run stopping defensive interior players left out there like Al Woods and Laval Joseph, but I don't see the Cowboys really pursuing those options either. But we've been surprised before, right? I mean, other than Gilmore, do you expect the Cowboys to go after any other free agent?
Yeah, and I don't see, looking at our roster, and I know a lot of people are in panic, but I don't see a free agent right now that probably makes our starting lineup, right? I mean, who out there is making our starting lineup that's sitting there? We need depth. I've said it before. We need depth. I'm concerned with our depth, so I don't see any big money free agents coming in. I have to agree with you. Outside of Gilmore, Gilmore is a guy that starts. Gilmore is the guy that we need in there, but something's going on there, and all 32 teams are in the same boat when it comes to Stephon Gilmore. He hasn't been signed by anybody. So is he holding out for more money? If he wouldn't have passed the physical, I think we would have heard about it. So I assume he's healthy now. He did have the surgery. Shouldn't have been on the field, Dan Quinn, in garbage time against the Commanders in week 17 and hurt his shoulder. And, you want to go down that road, let's go down that road. We lost to the Green Bay Packers because he couldn't freaking hit anybody because his shoulder was jacked up. So we play a zone defense, okay? You got me worked up here. Dan Quinn, have fun in Washington. You sabotaged our team. You screwed our postseason. And now Gilly is messed up for life. You dirtbag bum. Good luck in D.C. All right, I'm good. I'm all right. I got that out.
What? Oh, man. We have so much time to talk. I can't wait about this offseason and all the failures that will ensue in Washington. Back to normal.
They got our entire second string over there. They got our second string, and they act like they're going to the Super Bowl. We couldn't go to the Super Bowl with our first string. How the hell are you going to the Super Bowl with our second string? Get out of here.
It's true. Nothing but facts.
Come on.
But hey, folks,
unless you're going to talk about the Eagles in the NFC East, that's just I just look at that. 2 wins there, 2 wins there. Now let's go, Philly and us.
Yeah, there's some random NFL pundits out there like the Commanders will make they'll sneak in as a wild card team. I'm like, really?
Sneak in what? With tickets? Go watch the game?
It's crazy. Like the offseason gets us so far away from what actually happens in the NFL. And then we need a few weeks into the NFL to be like, okay, it's like you keep saying, like, yeah, the Cowboys didn't go out and sign Derrick Henry or any, Frankie Louisville, all these guys. And it's upsetting in a way because you're talking about, okay, this is a great team that you're trying to take to a Super Bowl. They could have used a great addition. Well, they didn't have a ton of money and they didn't end up doing it. And we can shake our fist at Jerry Jones all day, which I will continue to do. But like going into next year, this is still a great football team. Like you look at the roster, they have so many great players on this team, and all you have to do is sign a couple free agents and in the offseason, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, this team's going to be fantastic. Or, oh, they draft, look, the Chicago Bears are going to the playoffs. It's like, what are you talking about, man? Like things in the NFL don't change like that. This doesn't happen like that. So it's really interesting to hear. But like I said, that's kind of what happens in the offseason. It's full of these headline stories. So everyone right now is high on Washington.
That I'm not
They'll be set back to normal.
I'm not a big, sports gambler, but I always follow the spreads and put a little bit here and there for fun, for my own entertainment. Vegas doesn't lie. I keep saying that. I said it last week. I'll say it again. You think that Chicago or Washington is going to go to the playoffs or the Super Bowl? What does Vegas think? When you look over at Vegas, you'll see them Dallas Cowboys in that top 5 for odds to win the Super Bowl. So, apparently they're giving free money away there. So you guys could all go put your money on the other teams because, or bet your money that Dallas is not going to win 8 games or 9 games or over under is 10.5. Vegas isn't lying. They're not in the business to lose money. So they see this team as a contender. They see it right back where they were last year. They don't see them winning the Super Bowl. I don't see them winning the Super Bowl next year, but I don't know who's going to win the Super Bowl next year. I could sit here and say the Chiefs until further notice, but when's the last time you seen somebody win 3 Super Bowls in a row? What are the odds of that happening? Probably not going to happen. So if you take that out of the equation and just think in common sense that winning 3 in a row in today's free agent market, and it's just not, with injuries and everything that can happen, it's just not logical that they're going to do that to get a three-peat. If they do, that'd be pretty cool. I'm not a Chiefs hater at all. I mean, I have no problem with seeing that, as long as the Cowboys aren't on the other side of the field. But them in the Super Bowl alone would be something else for us to see. So outside of the Chiefs, take them out of the equation. It's wide open. Who you got winning the Super Bowl next year? Detroit? Y'all want to talk about Detroit's going to win the Super Bowl? They've never even been to the Super Bowl. 60 years. They have 0 appearances. Now all of a sudden they're going to win the Super Bowl. They're in the mix. Put them in the top 5 as a contender, but we just don't know at this point. So, I like to side with Vegas when I see Vegas putting their odds up for over and under. They got Cowboys at 10.5. All right. I'm optimistic. We're winning 11 games this year. You're pessimistic. We're winning 10 games this year. Vegas isn't going to put us there and then we go out and win 4 games. That's not going to happen. They're not in the business of giving away money, guys. So we'll see.
You're right about that, Cowboy Rich. So, hey, this has been another off-season episode of Sons of the Star. We're having a lot of fun over here at the podcast. Thank you all for tuning in today on our live show. We have great numbers so far. So this has been awesome. We appreciate your questions and your comments. And we're going to continue doing these live shows all off-season long on Saturdays. And then we'll come up with a schedule when it comes to preseason and regular season. But this has been a lot of fun. And follow us on X at Sons of Star Pod and at Cowboy_Reg. We are on Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, Apple Podcast, and we will be on Amazon Music soon as well. So since we've had so much great, I call it a great success of the podcast so far. We have a lot of new listeners, a lot of listeners that I could see on our statistics. So I'm going to continue to push out this podcast on other platforms so y'all can listen to it on whatever platform you use for your podcast. But it's been another great episode, another great week. Cowboy Reg, any departing comments before we sign off this week?
Go Mavericks.
Oh, go Mavericks. Hey, they start tonight?
No, Thursday, I believe. Yeah,
Thursday? Next Thursday?
Yeah, the schedule's set up in advance before the
Holy
season, and
smokes.
they're counting
Really?
on 7. They're counting on 7-game series. So when you got one
Okay.
that went 4 and one that went 5, we got some time off, which I'm good with. Let's get Luka's been limping around a little bit. He looked pretty good out there, dropping 20 in the first quarter the other night, but he still looked a little hobbled. So I'll take the week off. Kyrie, he's 56 years old, so he needs a week off. Yeah, I'm good with it. Bring it on, man. I can't wait for the finals. Mavericks, baby. We're going to get that chip this year. I got a feeling.
Damn. All right. Hey, we'll keep you all updated next Saturday because that'll be after at least game one. Cowboy Reg is our NBA analyst when it comes to Sons of Star. I'm your hockey guy, so I've been tuning into the NHL. So
Yeah,
I'm
the
locked on.
Stars not so good. The Stars are done. What do you say, Dallas? Are we done?
No, they're not done, man. They're definitely not done. They've played great on the road, all postseason long.
Yeah,
One of the and regular season wise, the Dallas Stars have played fantastic on the road. So there's a lot of you talk about basically all of the Canadian teams in the NHL are basically the Dallas Cowboys. I will use that
yeah,
comparison because there is so much pressure on these Canadian teams to win in the
yep,
NHL. It hasn't happened in 20 plus years. So when you talk about a Canadian team a few years ago, Montreal made it to the Stanley Cup Finals and they got the wheels beat off of them by the Tampa Bay Lightning. But you talk about the amount of pressure that's on Edmonton to close out the series tomorrow. Man, it's going to be very emotional. The Stars have been playing fantastic. Their coach, Pierre DeBoer, has never lost a game 7 as a head coach. So if they can force it to a game 7, I think the Stars will be fine. But tomorrow is the game that you circle.
yeah.
I think if Dallas can win tomorrow, they're going to win the series in 7. But Edmonton has two of the best players in the NHL in Draisaitl and McDavid. So they're all chips in tomorrow. They're going to try to close out that series at home, but there's going to be a ton of pressure on them. Like I said, the Stars have played fantastic all year long on the road. So I expect the Stars to go in and probably win that game tomorrow, force a game 7, and then they're back home for game 7.
Which is not
We'll
good.
see. Yeah, we'll see, man.
That
But
goes all the
hey,
way
I
back
think
to the Vegas series. They just can't win at home for some reason. It's weird, very
yeah,
strange.
but like I said, there, Pete DeBoer he does not
Yeah,
lose game 7. So their coach does not lose game 7. So you force a game 7, I think they'll be heavily favored winning at home in game 7. So tomorrow is the game that they better show up. So, but fun
sounds like
times, man.
I
Fun
like
times
the
in our
optimism
sports.
there. I like that.
Dallas sports. Hey, if you're a Stars fan listening to this, keep the faith because all you got to do is win one game. I think you win game 7. I'm
All
pretty
right.
neutral when it comes to hockey. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, but Chicago Blackhawks fan on the hockey side. So I'm coming here as a neutral standpoint. If the Stars can win game 6, I think they win game 7. So
All right. I like it.
we'll see. But hey, Dallas sports are in a good spot. The Cowboys need to reciprocate next year and at least make a Super Bowl. So we'll see. But hey, thanks again for listening to Sons of the Star. We will see you next Saturday for another live show. Catch us on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, wherever you get your podcast. And we'll see you next time. Go Cowboys.
Go Cowboys. Go Mavs.